For those of you who are new, I just dropped a few resources in the meetings channel. If at any point we mention links or talk about anything that I can share there, I will be sure to share it in the meetings channel. If you have any questions also throughout the chat, please feel free to either write the question there, or you can also, I think, request to come to the stage or raise your hand. So yeah, just to get some of those formalities out of the way. Yeah, I guess we can probably slowly get started then. Thank you everyone for joining this month's governance call. We have on the agenda today, we're going to go over an open proposal right now. That's why Boredom is on the stage already. He'll be talking about an open snapshot poll for the continuation of the Radicle Grants program. Then we will go into a few updates from recently passed proposals, and I'll go over a few other important discussion and temperature checks that are on the forum at the moment. And then, we'll just do some quick governance team updates, and then we'll say a few words about growth in the EGF. And then just a few quick transition to the DAO notes. And that is probably going to be it, unless anybody has anything else they wanted to chat about towards the end. So yeah, it might be a quick, fun little call today. So that's great. Okay, so I will just mention quickly, I just wanted to share. Actually, no, Boredom, why don't we actually get started with you. So Boredom is here today to discuss the open snapshot poll for the continuation of the Radicle Grants program. There is a formal review posted, which I will share in the meetings channel right now. So there's that. And then Boredom, I'll actually hand the stage over to you, and I'll, in the meantime, also share the voting link if you want to say a few words about the open proposal.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So we have a proposal. It's called Grants, Radicle Grants Continuation, and name's pretty self-explanatory. Also, it had already gone through a temperature check. As a reminder to anyone who's new on the call, we usually put things through temperature check to just kind of gauge the temperature, right? Check the room and see if the idea is sensible. And then we put it through discussions and formal reviews. Because it had already gone through a temperature check, and this is actually the first time that we're continuing like a sort of V2 of some V1 proposal. So because the general idea had already gone through a temperature check, we don't do another one. We just rely on the fact that the idea was sort of sound and seemed viable way early on. And we really focused on creating a new discussion about continuing and updating and amending and improving the proposal. And so what we did with this continuation, we basically forked the entire write-up of the proposal. So if you had gone through that proposal before, you just think of it, it's like 90% the same. The main things that we changed is how sort of setting like more like written down explicit rules about how we're going to communicate to grantees, so that we give them one, timely feedback, and then, but more importantly, like really constructive feedback. So we kind of like really buckled down and like wrote down exactly how we want to respond to people, especially in the cases where their ideas don't align with us or are just like not quite as good as we'd like them to be. So that was one amendment that we added. The other one is around optimistic funding, and that's really the main thing. The idea here is that we were given a $1 million budget for the first season of grants, and we used about 10% of it. So the idea with optimistic funding is we basically say, hey, let's not send the money back to the Treasury. Let's keep it in the grants budget, and just until we run out, we don't need to write a new proposal. And the idea here is just to get rid of a lot of overhead that comes with writing a proposal after every season. I mean, if we have money sitting there, we might as well just continue using it. So the way to think about that is mostly around getting rid of overhead and also just streamlining like the process, so we don't have this sort of we basically had like a dead month in order to do this proposal, and we just kind of like to get rid of that. And then lastly, the other thing that we added, which again is more around sort of communications and holding ourselves accountable, is attached to the new proposal is like pretty explicit numerical goals that we're going to try to reach. And most of these, what you'll find, they're in this section called purpose and KPIs. So as an example, we have like here's an example. Like we're working with Otter Space and they're going to give us badges. And I basically am saying like everyone on our committee needs a badge. Every grantee needs a badge. And it's I won't go into the details of how the badges work because that's another discussion. But that kind of goal is very explicit. It says like we need everyone on the committee to have one. Everyone who gets funding for a grant needs to have one. It's like there's no argument about what needs to be done, and there's a number attached to it. Another example is we're going to set aside a certain amount of money for retroactive funding. So this could be people who write a great blog post at Radicle, or maybe they do some engineering work for fun and we think it's great, so we want to pay them money. We're going to allocate 5% of the budget towards just kind of like throwing like money at people who do that kind of stuff and saying thank you to them. And so that's a numerical goal. We're saying we want to put aside this amount of the budget for that kind of goal and that kind of funding. So those are the three main amendments. Again, just to go through them again, it was like really clearly explicit communication to grantees, especially in cases where they don't get a grant, to give good feedback. The other one was optimistic funding. And then in our purpose and KPIs, we have really explicit KPIs. So we can actually track ourselves against some numerical goals. So that's it. The proposal's up for a vote. It's a snapshot vote. If you've got Rad token, have at it. And I'm excited to see how we start off. Thanks.
Thanks, Bodo. You heard the man. Have at it. You can have at it until Sunday, October 16th. That is when the poll will close. So be sure to get your votes in, or delegate your rad to someone else who is planning on voting within that time. Also, just I wanted to do also, Boredom already mentioned it, but just wanted to touch on it again. To remind everyone, because it's kind of the first time this has happened in our governance process, is that this, like, passing this snapshot poll will be the final step to execute this proposal. Like, it will not go to an on-chain vote. So because this proposal doesn't require any on-chain actions, the execution of the snapshot poll will be like the final vote, or like the final step in the governance process for this specific proposal. If anyone has questions about that, feel free to reach out. But yeah, I just wanted to like make that a call and make that very clear to folks, just going forward. But yeah, so also I wanted to do a quick shout out about Boardroom as well. The link I shared for the voting thing. I know this is kind of a newer thing we've been using. It's Boardroom is basically just like an aggregate platform that kind of hosts like all of our voting contracts. So you can still vote directly on Snapshot if you so choose. But Boardroom is just a place that has like on-chain and off-chain votes all together, and they have like a nice little tracking calendar and some nice features like that. So all you have to do is connect your wallet just like you would to Snapshot. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Snapchat today. But yes. Also, before, does anybody have any questions for Boredom or about the proposal or about the vote or anything like that? No. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Boredom. Really appreciate it and really, really excited. about wave 2. I think these changes are really, thoughtful and like good changes in a positive direction. So that's awesome. Great. Then if nobody has any questions, we'll move on to kind of some updates about recently passed proposals. So we recently had the Radicle Gitcoin Public Goods Alliance proposal pass. This actually passed in July for us, and we were waiting for Gitcoin to pass it on their end, and they finally did. Just as a reminder, the Radicle Gitcoin Public Goods Alliance is kind of to provide like a mutual grant of their respective tokens, so RAD and GTC, to each other's treasury in order to kind of further further their mutual public goods mission. This includes that kind of diversifying each other's DAO governance base, but also collaborating on kind of like a shared vision through governance in each other's communities, it's pretty cool. So that's great that we kind of have it pass on both ends now. We will be doing an announcement next week on this, so keep an eye out for more details and kind of next steps there for next week after everyone's calmed down a little bit from DevCon. And then the other proposal we recently had passed was the phase 0 transition to the DAO proposal. This proposal was to transitions Radicle like development runway and contributor token rewards to the DAO. Since that passed in August, the core teams are now officially funded via the DAO. The RAD distribution portion of that, which is kind of aimed at distributing ownership amongst like core contributors of Radicle, is hopefully going to be starting towards the end of the month. So yeah, and we'll be sure to like share details about updates for both of these proposals as we go on as well. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out or ask right in the general governance channel as well. Regarding I wanted to point out a few one like discussion posts and a important temperature check that's up right now. So Enzyme has a discussion proposal in like the discussion phase right now. We've been chatting with them for a while to kind of figure out a way or figure out if we want to kind of like deploy strategic cash on Enzyme's like on-chain asset management platform. This kind of like sparked this and other proposals regarding like treasury management or treasury diversification kind of sparked this like broader discussion within Radicle. And I know we've brought it up a few times or discussed it a few times now. But yeah, we're kind of still in the process of trying to like pull together like a working group and figure out like a long-term strategy. But in the meantime, yeah, we've had a few discussions with like the Enzyme team and also just like with a few folks in the community. And we Enzyme kind of seems like it would be a good maybe like first like baby step to kind of allocate, like a small amount to start experimenting with. This can like later be, added to like a larger or like more inclusive treasury management strategy. Also, here's the proposal I just shared in the chat. Sorry. Yeah, so that's kind of the update there. There's it's still the proposal. There's like a little discussion going on there. There's been some good questions asked. If anyone else has any like good input or comments or feedback to like add to that would be awesome. But we'll hopefully be moving this forward then, and then we'll get to have a better sense of consensus on what the community thinks about this proposal. And also just like a quick note to like general treasury management strategy. Like I said, I know we've like talked about it a lot recently, and we kind of like tried to start like a discussion around it, and it kind of goes in and out. But this is going to be something we're going to be focusing on after DevCon, just to kind of like get that discussion started again and making sure we are a little more like active or proactive and trying to put together like a working group to move this forward so we can more easily make these kind of treasury management or treasury strategy decisions going forward. I just wanted to quickly mention that because I know we've talked about it a few times now, and a few people have asked for updates async. So I just wanted to make sure I called that out quick. And then for the temperature check, I wanted to point out is, and Boredom already actually mentioned it, is the OtterSpace temperature check. So OtterSpace, we've also talked about them quite a few times before now on these calls. But basically, the proposal is to use their non-transferable token badges as a mechanism to distribute non-financialized governing power within the Radicle ecosystem. So this is, it's not only kind of like a membership or like permissions distribution of influence, but it's also, we're thinking of potentially using it as like a distribution of like governance power, within the ecosystem and amongst different contributors. We are in like a kind of like an exploratory phase with OtterSpace right now. We've been talking with the team on like a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And we kind of just had like an initial kickoff call to kind of experiment or kind of brainstorm how we could potentially start like testing these badges, or like how we could like implement them in different ways, just to kind of see if it's something, the community and contributors like think is valuable to the DAO or to our organization. And yeah, so that's pretty exciting. We'll be sure to like post any updates there, but this will definitely be like a more long-term project, and will require a lot of input and feedback from each different core teams, different contributors, and also on our side, just to kind of try to map those things out a little more clearly, to see what badges would make the most sense where. But yeah, if you have any questions about that temperature check, feel free to reach out either like here directly, or we actually have a OtterSpace channel. If you scroll down under the ecosystem partners, we also have an OtterSpace channel. Feel free to like post any questions or comments there. And we'll be sure to keep everyone updated on and what our kind of brainstorming, experimentation brainstorming comes up with. Yeah, so those were kind of like the important proposal updates and reminders there. I want to maybe stop here and ask if anyone has any questions. No? Okay, great. Then I'll just quickly move on then to do just a quick governance team update. I'll also share last month's our community and governance team update. This is the update that we share in every monthly community call on within the Radicle ecosystem. There's just there's a few different things there that go beyond governance, but might be interesting for folks. I thought I'd start sharing that in these calls as well. And then, I guess the only other like kind of cool call out is that Abby and I are in Bogota right now with a few other Radicle contributors. And we've been, really busy participating in a lot of really cool events. We sponsored Shelling Point and DevCon this year. So Abby and someone from our Drips team actually gave a talk at Shelling Point, and Abby will be doing a talk at DevCon. And it's been really, really fun to meet up with a lot of folks in the ecosystem that we've been chatting with or working with. We've also got invited to participate in the MakerDAO Governance Jam workshop yesterday. Abby and I actually led one of the challenge questions, which was really fun, and we learned a lot. Our topic was kind of how can you effectively distribute influence and ownership to contributors within the DAO, which is obviously something we've been thinking about and talking about a lot over the last few months. So it was really cool to kind of have four different tables kind of jam on different ideas and come up with a lot of things or validate a lot of things that we've kind of already been thinking about too, which was really, really cool. But yeah, so if you're in Bogota, feel free to reach out. It would be awesome to meet up and chat about governance or Radicle or anything. It would just be fun to meet. It's always fun to like meet new contributors or folks within the community. So yeah, so now next on the list we have kind of just a quick growth update. So the EFG, so Ecosystem Growth Fund update, I'll share their dashboard here quick in the meetings channel. If you haven't seen this yet, it's just kind of their like landing page or dashboard for all of the proposals that they've had come up and come through, and kind of a few updates on those. And then I'll also just share quickly the growth teams update from the last community call as well, if anyone's interested in taking a look at that. And then I guess just one call out there is that the growth team and the Ecosystem Growth Fund, like in this consideration and the transition to the DAO, like the Ecosystem Growth Fund will actually be considered its own kind of like org or sub DAO within the Radicle ecosystem, kind of like grants is, or grants will be as well. And the growth team and the growth like core team is kind of in the process of teasing out like what initiatives and functions will be, housed under the Ecosystem Growth Fund and which ones will like remain with the growth core team. So more updates they're in the process of kind of like doing that right now. So they should have a bit better idea by the end of the month. So if you're interested in that or interested in like hearing more about that, I definitely recommend tuning into the next community call, which is on October 26th for any updates there. I'm sure they'll also be sharing like more written and clear updates on the forum as well. But yeah, so if you're interested in that, join the community call next at the end of the month. And we'll also be sure to share a little update in the next governance call too. Great. Okay. So, wow, we are whipping through this crazy. Anyone have any questions? I'll stop again. Anyone have any questions about the Ecosystem Growth Fund or governance team updates or anything else that we've chatted about? No. Okay. Well, so last thing on the agenda is just a few like transition to the DAO updates. So I think we talked about some of these in the last call and shared some of these links in the last call. But just as a reminder, the org design workstream has kind of proposed like a new, potential structure for this a core development org. So just as a reminder, I guess again there too, like the Radicle DAO ecosystem as we kind of know it today and going forward includes like a few different sections, and we call those orgs. So there's like the core development org that kind of houses all of the core teams, and then there's the grants. The Radicle Grants program is kind of its own org as well, and the Ecosystem Growth Fund and the foundation will also kind of be its own little org. But the org design workstream has been primarily focusing on like the structure and organization of the core development org, so like that group of core teams. And they have this post that kind of goes into a bit more detail of like what that core development org kind of looks like and how it breaks down. And there is also a working group that has been started to really dive into the details of, how this org is going to kind of, organize itself, how it's going to interact with other teams and also like across other orgs. And obviously this isn't like a solo effort. And I mean, we're trying to kind of focus on like the core dev, like the core development org, but at the same time, like, we're also like in communication with like other org leads and trying to kind of like figure out, you know, like what they're thinking or how they're thinking about this, and yeah, just to make sure that we can have like a really nice congruent process at the end of it. But this working group, I wanted to call out, we did start having weekly meetings. But if you're interested in joining, like, please comment on that post I just shared. It's the open call core development org design working group post. You can comment there. Otherwise, reach out to Louis Gray directly on Discord as well. She would be happy to add you to the group, invite you to the calls, and yeah, we'll be sharing like updates about kind of thoughts and processes, and yeah, any research that we come across, that just so it's a really transparent and yeah, really transparent kind of like review of how we've kind of been coming up with these different ideas. And we'd love to have more folks participate. So yeah, just wanted to call that out. On the DAO tooling side, so I actually posted a post not that long ago, just like with some quick or brief updates and next steps kind of for the DAO tooling workstream. I kind of dropped off the face of the earth for a month on vacation. So the DAO tooling workstream kind of got put on pause. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of like do a quick update in regards to my previous post, which was kind of like talking about like the mapping, and I proposed a few tools to start trying out. And this post just has like a few updates regarding those tools that I propose to use, and then also some next steps. The gist or like the TDRL of like the next steps is essentially like, so the DAO tooling workstream and the org design workstream have kind of been like working like alongside each other, but not interacting a ton. And so my research, I've tried to just like cast a broad net of different DAO tools. And now the next step, or like the goal, is to converge a bit more with the org design work stream, and do some kind of collective research into contributor, or like deeper research into contributor needs, and figure out like, out of this list of tooling that I have, what tools could we potentially start like stitching together, or like what tools are we seeing that they're requesting or you know, really need, and what can we start already like testing out and looking into. So yeah, it's just going to be a bit more of like a partnership between the two orgs, and I guess, yeah, maybe more all the orgs in general, just like on the DAO tooling side, to see what will work best for us. And yeah, so that's kind of like the next steps there. On the DAO tooling workstream, the distribution of influence and distribution of ownership workstream. So the distribution of influence workstream is kind of ties like really deeply into the Otter Space proposal. That's kind of how we've kind of like been thinking about distribution of influence, and have been working with them to see if we can figure out a mechanism that works for us, but also still looking into other ways and options of how we can do that as well. And distribution of ownership, as I mentioned, from this transition to the DAO, the phase 0 transition to the DAO proposal, this is also starting to kind of be addressed in with the proposal that's distributing RAD tokens to core contributors, which should start at the end of the month, as I mentioned before. So yeah, if there's any more like updates or detail updates or questions about updates to either of those, or anybody needs like some more information or wants more information or details, please feel free to reach out. But yeah, those are kind of like the primary important updates in regards to the transition to the DAO at the moment. Yeah, I know this is like it's a lot. It's always like a lot of information, and it's a lot to think about, and there's also like just a lot of like links and resources. But we appreciate you folks kind of hanging in there, and we always really, really appreciate feedback. And if anybody like wants, or if this would be helpful for folks to, to kind of like do a deeper dive again into like this transition to the DAO stuff, I'd be happy to, or I'm sure like a few of us would be happy to like host maybe a separate call if anybody like is interested in that, just to like make sure things are clear, and also just to like for like a more open space to like provide feedback, because I know it's not always everyone's cup of tea to sit and reply to all of the discourse posts or the forum posts. So yeah, but like this is, again, like I know it's a lot to keep track of, but it's really important that we keep receiving feedback, and especially from like, the core contributors and folks who are really active in our community, and who will be kind of like interacting with this new this new system and structure, just to make sure everyone's on board with everything and everybody's input is heard, and questions are answered. So yeah, please feel free to reach out if that's something someone would be interested in. Yeah, just let me know, and then we'll try to get something set up. But yeah, that's actually it for the agenda today. Just maybe a quick question, or does anybody have any questions regarding the DAO transition or anything else? No? Okay, look at that. That was, wow, that was like lightning speed quick. 34 minutes, not bad. Great. Okay. Well, thank you everyone who joined. Really appreciate it. Always great to see your faces. I don't know, your some faces, some profile pictures, or everyone's profile pictures here on the call. And yeah, this is recorded. I recorded this call, and I'll get it posted hopefully by the end of the week. Please be patient, as it is DevCon week. But yeah, this will be posted, and I'll be sure to post like a collection of all of the links that were shared, also in the normal spot with all of the rest of the past governance calls and notes, and I'll be sure to share that in the governance updates channel when it's all ready to go. So I will just close it out here then. Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. And yeah, feel free to reach out with any questions or comments or feedback at any point, anytime. Bye, everyone.